Hey, welcome everyone. This is Lee Gray, and with me is Ethan Solomon, and this is Trade Unafraid Trades. We are recapping two trades of Ethan's from Friday, June 17th, and I'll just... The big reveal is win streak broken. So, sorry about that, Ethan. And so this is the first setup. Anything you want to say about this before we start playing?
Yeah, the idea behind the trade, and I'll admit that I might have been a little bit perhaps about, if you see I missed clearly like an inside bar earlier the day that ended up with a very strong down move.
You're talking about this one?
Yeah, it just didn't fit my parameters, and I might have forced this trade, but I thought it was overall a good setup. So what you see in the chart here is that it returned back to that 367 area where the heavy selling began.
Yep.
And you can see that it continued, and it was very, very wicky around that area, right? So,
right.
Very, very wicky up the top. So the trade I took was an inside bar around the 365 area, just so round number, and I thought that could potentially be a catalyst to downward movement back towards the low up days.
Yeah. Okay, so so there's the entry. You're in three puts, and
right. If you pause it, then you can see that, as always, the software puts a stop at the previous bar, the high of the previous bar.
Right.
So any two against you is a losing trade, and it configures stop to be right at the bottom of that big 3 bar. That's going to be my first pivot, my first target placement.
Mm-hmm. And then the second one. Yeah.
Right, the low of day.
Okay. All right, so we'll just speed up here. And you were up about 75, I think, at one point?
Yeah.
Yes, or 72 there. So, right about here.
Yeah, very, very aggressive buying. Honestly, I didn't even see it coming.
Yeah.
Around 2 cents, it went up around 70 cents. 2
right.
seconds, it went up around 70 cents.
Right.
And didn't, in terms of moving or, changing my stop, being more aggressive with my stop, it never really hit any of my rules. We didn't get another 2 down on the next candle, to bring it below the 364 area. It just reversed as a 1 bar. And I've had plenty of trades where you get 1, 2 down, and then another one afterwards.
Yeah.
And, we'll continue to go afterwards. So nothing in my rule set really prepared me for that, and it was just a losing trade. And is that a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Time will tell.
Yeah. So, before we started recording, we were debating the merits of various ways that you might approach this. I suggested the MFE retracement exit tactic, which, for those who don't know, that looks at how far the trade has moved in your favor and then can protect a certain percentage of that so that you don't let a winning trade turn into a loser. Ethan completely rejected that idea. There's also the green to red candles as well as green to red profit and loss. So 2 different ways that you can automate protecting either against a reversal of price or a reversal of your profit and loss. So you have a profitable trade, you don't want it to go from green to red, so you can automate those. Even just briefly, what's your opinion on any of those approaches?
So for myself, and obviously the most important thing is to journal and to just track the data and to know maybe I should have done it differently next time. But my current thinking is that unless it's based off of price action, to never trade based off of P&L, first of all, always trade based off of what is price action telling you. Right? So, even for example, in this trade, it went from 70 at one point all the way back down to 20, all the way back up to 75. Right, so in terms of what parameters would you even utilize for some kind of retracement, that's a big question in the first place. How wide? What ends up this trade? A couple $100, which has happened to me before when I was trying out MFE retracement. I got out just because the P&L moved against me, and that ended up being would have been one of my biggest trades. So this is way back. This is in the set of these videos. So for myself, I've always thought about use things based off of price action. So I would never use a green to red position or something like that based off of P&L alone or an MFE retracement. In terms of the green to red candles, I have been doing that manually to some variation. I haven't really defined in my own head how I would like to apply that fully, which means that it's very difficult to automate it. And with trade on trade, it's very easy. It's just one click of the button to reorganize all of your stops. So I've essentially have been using that green to red candle stuff. Like when a 2 down happens, I'll put the stop at the open bar and that kind of stuff. I just haven't like fully articulated it yet. So that's what you'll see if I like right click and then add a stop. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because what makes a market is different outlooks, different traders with different approaches. I personally, it hurts me psychologically to have a winner become a loser. I'd actually rather miss out on a winning trade than have a green trade go red on me. And you're probably a better trader than I am, so I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, for me, protecting myself from a loss, I'd rather make $1 than have... I don't mind having a $400 trade get away from me as long as I don't lose $1 on it.
We'll see. I'm still pretty young. We still have some time to tell, but
yeah, I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong by any stretch. I'm just saying that's my approach.
In general, it all depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're scalping on like the 1 minute charts, you might apply something very different than if you're trading on the daily time frames of how aggressive or loose your stops are. If you're trading on a high time frame, you probably want to make sure you get some very solid winners in there to kind of, like let's say you have a gap against you, right? That's going to be an automatic huge loser if you're trading on the daily time frame.
Yeah.
So you probably, it also very much depends on how you're trading.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, and then you had a second trade here. You want to set it up?
The setup was horrible. I'll definitely admit that this was a trade that I should not have taken. And the biggest reason is that you're in the, it's middle of the day, it's 1:55. And you see on the 60-minute chart, you're in the middle of the previous bar was, a sizable $3 or $4 bar, and we're still right in the middle of an inside bar.
Right here.
Yeah, trading an inside bar, and it's going to end up causing a 2-2 reversal on a higher time frame. Is a good idea when you trade, but in this context, it was just like it wasn't going to happen, and I definitely forced this trade. Especially if you go short, you have to go $3 or $4 to hit the blow of the previous bar.
Yeah.
So at 1:55 in the afternoon.
Right.
Definitely a forced trade, and one I should not have taken.
Yeah, and I mean, just to be explicit about it, it was on your mind was the 11-day winning streak and the loss of the morning, or the prior loss. So,
I will not deny that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just, we're human beings. That's it's like you can't deny that these things get in your head, and the better you are at not letting them influence you, I think, the more successful you'll be, given the law of large numbers.
Maybe.
We should just play it now?
Well, yeah, so I guess, just in brief what the setup was, in taking into account that I should not have taken the trade, we're throughout the day, the 367, 368 area was an important one, and you can see that, you have an inside bar, and then it shoots down, right? You have a very heavy red selling.
You're talking about this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so why am I not on the previous inside bar and I'm on this current inside bar? All the symptoms of a bad trade.
Yeah.
So I take this inside bar thinking, the sellers have finally woken up. That's why you see that big red bar previous, and I think the trade lasted around a minute before it turned into a 3 bar. So
yeah. Well, you can also make the argument that the buyers woke up.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the symptoms of a bad trade.
Yeah. Yeah. So it went low enough to get you in, and then it decided that's as far as it's going.
All of the symptoms of a coin flip trade.
Yeah.
And I think it lasts around 20 seconds, and I got taken out in around 15 seconds or so.
Yep. Okay, so no pressure now because the 11-day win streak ended. Do you feel lighter for tomorrow?
Not really. I feel like it was like a fool's decision, and now I'm just gonna make sure I don't try to trade it back. But yeah, it's best to not let the emotions kind of get in the way. So at the moment, I don't feel lighter, and I'm ready to move on to something I guess we'll speak about. I decided the reaction to this kind of trading was that I really wanted to scale up more, which is probably surprising for anybody that sees this. But I'm now excited to take that next step.
Yeah.
For sure.
So you're going to start tomorrow?
Double the stop.
Okay. As far as entries versus exits, clearly you didn't like this entry, and you've been very clear about that. The first one also, do you feel like you just took the wrong trade, or was
the first one wasn't as bad, and I think it was a good thought out trade. It also, though, happened to not work into any of my rule sets that I had been setting up, meaning that everything looks good, but I've been consistently taking trades near this key buyer seller areas. So for example, if I could determine that 367 was a key area where sellers stepped up, and I'm taking the trade at 365, I probably want to wait for another trade.
Right. So
it wasn't bad, but I don't think it fit into what I have been consistently doing.
Yeah.
Right. So the 367 area to me was the clear pivot point. Right.
Right.
And I took the trade at around 365.
Right. Right. So, and what was the reason that you missed this better entry level?
From the previous, you mean from the first inside bar, or?
Well, oh, yeah, okay. So this one obviously would have been V1, but I when you said 367, I was thinking you were talking about this area.
So I'm only trading inside bars. The reason, and I know that might be a little bit surprising. The reason that I do that is because this is something I feel like is not discussed about at all on any medium I've really seen. Is that when you trade during the day, right? Obviously, an inside bar represents a specific concept, a 2 represents a specific concept, and the 3 represents a specific concept. They all represent ideas, right? Any trade that you don't take, you have to have a reason for not taking it, or else eventually you're just going to run out of luck, right? If you think that you're the guy that's catching the right trade every single time for a month, give it 2 more months. It's going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to define, why am I taking a specific trade, right? So for myself, a great way to, as I was saying, a 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, they all represent different concepts, right? So a great way I have been limiting that is by only looking for 1 bar trades. And yeah, I'm for sure missing out on 100 moves during the day, but if I could capture one condition and develop that one condition, as you're seeing like over the last couple of weeks, if you see previous videos on 2 or 3 contracts a SPY, you could easily be making $100, $200 trades, right? So if you're talking 30, 40 contracts, you're not even making like a tick in liquidity, right? You could be making, hypothetically, obviously, you call it your fantasy calculators, but you could be making a living on that kind of trade.
Yeah.
So develop that one idea, that one condition, and then afterwards we can start dealing with, okay, well, why didn't I take that 2-2 reversal at the very top? Right? Why? And the answer might be, oh, I just missed it and it was just lucky. But if you start focusing on way too much, then you're going to lose track of things, in my experience. And yeah, the most important thing is that if you can't answer why you didn't take a trade, then a month later it's going to happen and you're just going to start losing over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's why
So in this case, you didn't take this because it wasn't a 1. You didn't have an inside bar.
Exactly.
Okay.
In my mind, if I took the right one, the right 2-2, I have to be able to answer, why didn't I get stopped out on the 3? Why didn't I take the next 2? The previous 2-2s throughout the day, they all ended up being winners, of course, today. But like previous 2-2s, let's say throughout the week, why didn't I take those trades?
Yeah.
If I don't have the time to collect the data and to review that, then I'm going to run out of luck eventually, because I'm really creating a full rule set. I'm just I happen to be making winning trades and building my data based off of that, but next month it might be the complete opposite.
Right. So was this one, is everyone a valid entry, or were you pushing your luck here? Was this one too low to have been a good entry?
For me, not for everybody, obviously, but for me, since I've been consistently trying to trade around pivots, to me, I probably should have said it was too low. Obviously, I'm looking back and saying I had a losing trade, and I know,
Yeah, like hindsight is 20/20. Yeah.
And but yeah, in general, throughout the day, I try to answer myself as to why I didn't take any 1 bar trade.
Right.
I need to know the answer to that. Is it maybe the 1 bar is too big? So like a 1 bar that just moves, on SPY that moves $2.50, and it just happens to not take out the other side of the bar, isn't really a one bar.
Yes. There's not a lot of consolidation there.
There's not a lot of consolidation.
Yeah.
So, you see like 4 bars beforehand, you have that big 3 bar.
Right.
I have written down in my notes, I didn't take that 1 bar because the trade was really, really large.
Yeah.
I also have written down in my notes that the previous 1 bar that led to that $4 move down, I didn't take it. I wrote down my reasoning. I can't remember off the top of my head. I wrote down my reasoning, and then hopefully in the future I can recognize the situation.
Yeah. That one I'd like to know about, because this clearly is a really nice one to have taken the low off of. So
yeah, it has a big fat tail on top of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we'll do the next video on that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, is that it?
That's all I have in mind.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
For sure.